Hello and welcome back to the Disclosure Team YouTube channel. It's good to be back. I've been away on vacation for a week and we're back with another live interview, discussion, chat. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to bring in two people who I really wanted to speak to for some time, who I have a lot of time and respect for. So guys, please welcome Erica Lukes and Scott Browne. Hey guys.
Hello. Nice to be here.
I'm very well. No, thank you for joining me. I know, Scott, we've been trying to make this happen for some time. And then, Erica, you very gladly accepted the invitation to join as well. And that is really appreciated. So thank you
This
both.
will be fun. Yeah, absolutely.
So how are you? Are you good?
Yeah, well.
I think I need a vacation, preferably in a padded room. I'm kidding. It's been an interesting and very tiring couple of weeks, and I know Scott feels the same. So, but we've done a lot of digging, and you know, I think at the end of the day, we know that we put out good information, and a lot of it, and so hopefully people will start to look at that information critically instead of emotionally, and then we can get some answers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for anybody that isn't aware, Scott and Erica have been covering the sort of Travis Walton case and the recent things that have emerged about it being a hoax, etc., etc. We'll discuss that in a little while. So, what I wanted to do first, guys, was just go over your history in this subject, what got you started, what got you interested, some of the work you've done. So, who would like to go first?
Erica.
Oh, okay. That's so mean. So I have always had a fascination with this subject. I remember being in grade school and taking a book off of the library shelf, and it had a UFO on it. It was Dale White as something up there, and from that moment kind of forward, I was like, what is this subject about? And so I studied, you know, the paranormal, all sorts of things, and throughout my life, I've had some interesting experiences, but I really became active in the UFO world in 2013-14 when I had some interesting sightings over the Salt Lake Valley, and that led me to MUFON, and I became the state director, and then also worked under Jan Harzan for the communications team, and I eventually resigned because there were things taking place that I wasn't happy with, and I also started to ask questions about the fact that the organization was, after 50 years, had not really accomplished anything other than muddying the waters and also collecting people's personal information and selling it to the highest bidder.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite shocking. So
there's me in a nutshell.
No, that's great. So do you mind talking about the sightings that you just mentioned that you had over the Salt Lake?
Yeah, I had a beautiful place that was on the east side of Salt Lake, and I you know, every day I love clouds. I love just looking at the sky and lightning storms, and so I'm a photographer and an artist and things, and so I would just go out there, and one night I was sitting there with my friend, and we noticed an amber orange sphere that was hovering above the mountains, the Ochre Mountains, and we watched it for quite a long time, got the binoculars out, and to me it appeared, to both of us, it appeared like it was one single light source, which was not the typical thing that you would see if you were looking at planes that were coming in, because that was around the flight corridor for the Salt Lake International Airport.
Right.
And so being out there every night, you know, you get used to navigation lights, you get used to seeing specific things that you can identify, and so the larger object, it appeared that there was a smaller object that kind of came down and then made a circle around it very quickly, and so we both just sat there, hey, that was interesting. And so from that, you know, and I'm a curious person, and so I became very familiar with, I looked up every sighting in the area. I got the navigation charts, and I you know, figured out what airspace was what. We have a lot of restricted airspace here in Utah because we have the NSA and different things. I learned how specific things behave, and I was also at that point a little curious because we do have a lot of restricted airspace, and when I was looking out that direction, we are 80 miles away from Dugway Proving Ground, which is, you know, one of the world's largest testing places for biological and chemical weapons. And so, for me being a concerned citizen, I want to know what is flying around in the airspace. So that led me on a very interesting journey, to say the least.
Wow, that's incredible. That's really interesting. And do you mind if we just briefly touch upon your appearances on, you've done multiple sort of TV shows as well, haven't you?
You know, I have, and that's been a lot of fun. I was on UFOs The Lost Evidence, and I've done 2 seasons with them, and that has since morphed into other shows. I'm still not quite, I still don't know how many shows I'm on, really. Um, but, it's like, it's funny, you'll turn on a show and it's like, okay, all right, good, new name, this is great. And then also Ancient Aliens, NASA's Unexplained Files, and, strange evidence and things. So I've had a great time doing that. I like TV work. My background is vocal performance and voiceover work, and so I'm very comfortable with it, and it's a lot of fun.
Excellent. Well, it shows. I've seen all of those shows, and you're absolutely amazing, natural in all of them. So,
Thank you.
yeah, it's no problem. Mr. Scott Browne. Now, Scott, I could probably do 2 hours on your history, if not longer. But go for it. Give us a background, give us a bit of history, and tell us something interesting.
Well, first I want to say that something that Erica and I both have in common is that we were both with MUFON, and we left because we weren't happy.
Right.
So that's kind of something that we really, have in common.
Yeah.
I hadn't really looked at anything. In 1987, I had a couple episodes of sleep paralysis. I can't say that that's what triggered it. I don't know. Sometime later, I picked up a book called Out There by Howard Blum. I read it and I could not stop looking for information. And that information began to trigger memories from my childhood. And I sent you the documentary that explains a little bit about my early years.
Yeah.
And so as time went on, I did a lot of, studying in the library. There was no internet, so it was a lot of books. And, I got sucked in by a lot of, the Billy Myers and George Adamskis and all these people that were, doing all these hoaxes. And so once I got into high school, we had a huge art department, our own dark room. And I took 4 years of photography and began to study that and how to superimpose images into other images. Of course, once computers came along, that changed all of that. It made it easier, faster, more efficient. So I began to try to catch my own images of something. I thought, I'm going to catch my own images. I don't want to look at books anymore. I want to try to do it myself. Mm-hmm. So I began to experiment with different cameras. In 2013, I began to notice different people on the internet that were doing work with infrared cameras and trying to catch things. And so I thought, I'd like to have all these people in a group and just be able to talk to them and look at their footage, and maybe we can compare notes. So I formed In the Field on Facebook and began to pull people in there. That's when I met Erica.
Right.
And so that turned into Diana Pasulka coming into the group. I didn't know who she was. I let her in because she said her favorite researcher was Jacques Vallée. So I thought, that's cool with me because,
Yep.
I'm a big Jacques Vallée guy. So I let her in, and one day somebody said, "Do you know who that is?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Well, Google her name." Looked her up, found out about her background. So I was like, "Oh, cool. She must be studying the parallels between religion and the phenomena," which is, there's books out there about it now.
Yeah.
So she messaged me and said, "I'm writing a book and I'd like to feature you in the book." And I said, "Okay, fine." So she flew out and met me. And the book was published. And, I did a few podcasts here and there. And I pretty much stayed on Facebook. And then 2019, I said, you know what? I'm going to try this Twitter thing. So on Twitter,
Lord
and
help you.
and that pretty much like opened up all new doors to meeting, you know, people like you, Vinny, and just so many people that I met. And I had a bunch of my own sightings. You know, I take the cameras out all the time. We're going out tonight.
Wow.
And we're going to do on my brother's land. He has an open field that's 360 degrees all the way around, up on an incline. And so we're going to set up the infrared cameras, see what we can get out there tonight.
Nice.
And so, you know, then it evolved into this, and I went on Erica's show a couple of times. We got to know each other, and then we kind of both, a little while back, cooked up this idea to, you know, switch over from just audio to video, and here we are.
I think it's fantastic. I love you guys together. I could watch you all day long. It's
Thanks.
awesome. Hey, no
I got
problem.
You. Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. It is fun to see each other's, you know, to see each other's expression and things, and to watch people that you're interviewing, to see their body language. So I love it, and I'm really glad that we made the decision to do it.
No, it's fantastic. I love it to bits, and I know a lot of other people do too. And it's just like you say, just to see people and their passion and reactions and things. I think it really it helps with what they're saying, especially in this subject, you know, which we're all very passionate about. So, yeah, that's great. So, let's talk about Travis Walton. I mean, this is everyone. It's just all over the place at the moment. And you guys are at the forefront of the work, speaking to the right people. You know, I don't think there's anyone out there other than Travis himself who knows any more than what you guys know. So I guess my first question would be, when did this, or these new revelations first appear, and where did they appear?
Scott, this is all you.
I can't give you an exact date for when the phone call popped up. And Erica and I were talking about guests, and I said, well, let's get Mike Rogers on, you know, and have him talk about this phone call that's supposedly been digitally altered to seem like that he didn't really say the things he said. So when I made this post with Mike on the show on Twitter, I get this 2-page email from the guy who recorded the call.
Right.
And he said, Ryan Gordon. And he said, you know, the phone call was not digitally manipulated. And, you know, I can prove it. I have the phone call. He recorded it on an Apple Watch.
Oh, right.
There's no ports. So he has the original phone call stored on his watch.
Wow.
So I thought, well, this kind of just took a turn here for what I was, because I really thought that it was manipulated.
Yeah.
I knew Mike that had been picking at Travis for years. There's been bickering between them for a long, long time. And everybody knows that.
Yes.
He does it in public, so everybody knows. And so we actually did not plan on Ryan being on the show. We got to the end of the 2 hours with Mike. Ryan messaged me and said he would like to come on and defend himself.
Right.
Well, I messaged Erica at the end of the show, and she offered Mike, would you like to have Ryan come on and we can talk about this? And you can hear it in the video. Mike didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so we said goodnight, thank you. And he got off the air. And then we brought Ryan in. And then it turned into another 2 hours.
Yes. Great show. But both aspects of it. It's a shame that Mike didn't stick around and you know, join in on that discussion.
We actually made the offer again last night, and Mike didn't want to do it.
Damn.
So
that's a real shame.
But you never know. Never say never.
Yeah, that's true.
As we know, things change moment to moment in this field.
So would you mind just giving us a sort of brief overview of what's going on, what's been said, and just some ins and outs of what occurred. You know, where was Travis if he wasn't abducted, and just sort of brief from what you've been told and seen through evidence, what happened and why.
You know, it was interesting talking to Ryan, and like I mentioned in our very long interviews. I mean, he was right there and presenting any information. It's like, okay, you have a question about me. I'm not in the UFO world, and I don't play with these people, but and I take my job seriously in the film world, and so he presented things to me to validate that what he was saying about his relationship with Travis and Mike was accurate. And so I sat there with him while he was doing a video call, and he was showing the call logs, from when he first spoke with Travis, different things that were taking place, a lot more video than we've been able to put out publicly. And
Wow.
then also different things. He has a legal contract, as does Travis, and so there are things that they are not at liberty to say.
Right.
And so that was, it was he was very respectful of that. And I think the thing that was interesting to me when we first got all of this going is the fact that he always said, I like Travis. Travis is a nice man. This is, and you can hear in the conversation that he released that there was that, Travis immediately knew who he was, unlike what Travis had made a public statement saying he didn't know this fellow, but that was, not the best look, but they were very familiar with each other and things, and so that from there, we just got information, and he laid everything out, right, Scott? I mean, he had a presentation that he showed us behind the scenes of, okay, this is what I learned here, and you've got the background to his involvement, which he laid out, the call with Travis, and various things, and then also he had about a 400-page document that was available from MUFON, and interestingly enough, Barry Greenwood found the same document, and so it's the APRO investigation. It is the different people that were coming in, interviewing the witnesses. It's all of the newspaper clippings from that time, and it really lays out a very interesting narrative to a story that over time has been forgotten. It has been changed, I believe, and we don't know a lot of the facts that Ryan laid out. And I think an important fact to me, and then I'll turn this over to you, Scott, but some of the important things were Travis's family's reaction to him being missing. And something that really shocked me was the fact that his mother was trying to get the search called off a day after her son went missing.
Wow.
And if I have a child, if my child went missing, I would not be calling off a search. And then his brother coming out publicly and saying that, the UFOs will, bring him back, and I'm not worried about things. I mean, these aren't typical and normal reactions from family members with a loved one missing. And so that was a very big, that raised my suspicions about things. And I would love for people out there that are listening, please explain that to me. What are your thoughts? How would you put that? Is that just kind of a normal thing for most human beings? But Scott, you have other areas of interest that you really kind of hooked onto.
Yeah, so the case for me for years rested on the 5 guys that didn't recant the story. So that kind of gave it a lot of validity to me because they had nothing to gain. Travis was the one that put the book out. He was involved with the movie. Mike, too, to a lesser degree. But the other 5 guys, they didn't have anything to gain. So, if it was a collaborative lie between 7 people, these 5 guys were telling a lie for 45 years so these other guys could tour the convention circuit and go on these interviews. And I thought, that just doesn't make sense. So now going back through all of the records, the first person to discover, or I'm sorry, to make a theory that the five guys were fooled by the other two was Ray Fowler in 1976. And he went on to write a bunch of books, and he was a researcher as well. And he laid it out in a paper saying that, you know, these five guys could have been fooled by the other two, and they would have never known it if it was planned well. And the sticking point where they were stuck with trying to figure it out was, what was the UFO? If they faked it, how did they fake the UFO? So that kind of got buried in the files and nobody really looked at it. And then I came across Carl Flock, who was a CIA, I think, intelligence officer, but he also had an interest in UFOs. And in the year 2000, he said the same thing, that the five guys could have been fooled by the other two. And so then I began to think about it, and I thought, well, that changes everything.
Yeah.
Because if the five guys were, if they had to lie and they were in on it, it would have never worked, because they couldn't have held it together with those five guys. The key to it was fooling them, so when they give their testimony to the authorities, whatever they had to do, that it was valid.
Yeah.
They were all scared. They saw something. And the theory is that Mike hyped them up in the truck. You know, he got them all going crazy. They peeled off down the road. They were in the book. You can see where they go back. I think it was 4 of them went back to look for Travis, and they were confused. It goes on for 2 pages where they were confused about where it happened. They had flashlights. They kept driving. No, it happened here. No, it happened here. They were completely confused. And then Mike drove them to the so-called location, which in the theory is 4.9 miles away from the tower.
Right.
Which would make it much easier for them when authorities came in to look for Travis to say, well, it can't be the tower because we can't see it from this location. So it makes it so it was a very simple yet well-planned hoax. And again, it's still a theory.
Yeah.
But all the pieces fit together so well. So
I mean, it makes sense as well that the 5 guys would have been duped and they passed the lie detector test because they genuinely believed that what they'd seen was a UFO. I mean, that stands out. But then I think the question would be how Mike and Travis fared on the lie detector tests. You able to sort of explain about that a little bit?
Well, first of all, let me say that it was very interesting that the information was put forward about what they were specifically asked on the lie detector test. You know, and none of it had to do with was Travis abducted by aliens?
Right.
Do you have anything to do with his disappearance or murder and things? And so, I mean, we go back to the lie detectors, but I mean, look at what they were being asked.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key thing there.
Right.
And also, you know, Travis Walton did fail a lie detector test. And so, there were several interesting things that took place around that as well. And I'm sure Scott can go into more detail.
Yeah, the first test he was given was paid for by the National Enquirer, and I think APRO was in on it too, which was an investigative group, and they covered it up. And anyone can find those documents where there's other investigators questioning, saying, you know, why was it covered up? Why did you do that? And so you know, the basis for that would be that the Enquirer had the contest going. They wanted to sell papers. And so, of course, they're going to say, well, if the public finds out about this failed test, we can't print this because it's just going to look ridiculous. So they covered it up. Later on down the road, they took tests and passed. And like Erica said, that it was mostly about, did you cause any harm to Travis, and things like that. So of course, they're going to pass that because they didn't do anything to him.
Sure. Wow.
And so yeah, there. If you go back through the records and you compare everything, there are tons of holes and discrepancies, and it's crazy when you compare all that stuff to see there's so much wrong with that case. So if anybody is interested, I have a lot of it, and I can get more of it. I can send links. People can go there and look at it themselves.
That'd be really interesting. If you got anything you think people would look at, please send them to me. I can always add them to the description below as well. Another thing that I found really intriguing is that this wasn't the first time that Travis Walton had been associated with talking about UFOs and aliens. Can you sort of give us a little piece about how that came about? Because I think that really, it adds something. It makes it more intriguing.
He was very fascinated, and I do believe that he he did have multiple alleged UFO sightings, and that was pretty well known around that very small community.
Yeah.
And things. And so, in fact, and Scott, help me if I'm wrong on this, but was it the sheriff that just said he wouldn't be surprised if
Yes.
Travis came in one day and said, "Oh, I've been chased by a UFO," and things like that. And so that was very interesting. And then you also have the fact that they had been watching and been interested in allegedly the Betty and Barney Hill case, which was front and center in the media at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 2 weeks before the alleged abduction was when the movie world premiered on TV. And back then, they admitted that they saw it. Mike said he saw part of it.
Right.
And if you watch, there's an interview with Travis from January on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And he says specifically in the interview, Joe asks him, "Were you aware of that case?" And Travis is a little bit evasive about it, and he says, "Probably." So, there was, like Erica said, people in town knew that they all had these interests in UFOs. And the sheriff, he came and made that statement. Another woman who wouldn't give her name because she was a government employee said that Travis had come to her earlier before the alleged abduction and said that, he was being chased by a UFO. There's another document in there, and I think it's APRO or Ground Saucer Watch, where it states that the brothers between them had 10 to 15 sightings of UFOs before this even happened.
Right.
So, and Mike has also come forward. Mike has actually written a book, and I don't think he's published it yet, but he's put the cover on his page about him and Travis seeing a UFO, I think in 1971, 4
Right.
years before. So, take it as you will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I've seen these videos you've done and where you've been speaking with Ryan Gordon, and he really doesn't seem to be pushing any agendas or anything. He's just a guy who's involved in this, and he's laying it all out. I think he's been attacked, hasn't he? You guys have been
Yes.
called out for doing this, and I just think that's shameful because we need to have people look at things like this because yes, people don't want to see their heroes fall and things like that, but when it is a possibility of being a complete lie and a hoax, unfortunately this has to be done. So no, I commend you guys for your work. Seriously, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That means a lot, and I think that that has been a real. I guess it shouldn't be surprising because I've had, dealings in the past with the UFO community when I've tried to stand up and talk about things. But I think that it has been really sad to see the cult-like beliefs of these people. And it's almost like, if you go back and you look at Scientology, which interestingly enough, a couple people back in the 70s were Scientologists. I don't know, go figure, they're involved with the UFO community. Another story. But,
Yep.
so you've got the way that specific religious groups deal with people that speak out against them. And you can see that, again, we've got this case where it was like absolutely shocking to me that I had a person that was listening from a different country and was like, wow, thank you so much. And this person posted the interview on several different Facebook groups, and this person was bullied and threatened and was told to take these interviews down. And I mean, it was just like, what? I mean, this is, are these, what's behind this? Are these people that are so willing to die on a cross for heroes that at the end of the day have a lot of issues with their stories? I mean, is that where they want to go? And to me, it just proved again that it is just a big social club. And another thing I just want to state, and I've said this on the show, when I started seeing this, rhetoric on Facebook where they were mounting these attacks and social media, I said to them, and they were just like, well, this person can, F off, and this person, blah, 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 blah. I mean, really nasty personal attacks. And I said to some of them, one of them whom is I like and is a very prominent person in the UFO world, I just said, have you watched the interview? And the answer was no. And I just think, okay. So go ahead and, everybody make judgments based on whether you like somebody. But, then I guess at a deeper level, all of these people are speaking at conferences together. They're all, bigger picture are potentially, capitalizing on revenue streams from certain things. And so it opened a hornet's nest, but at the end of the day, that's what I think Scott and I, that's what we want to do, because we believe the subject is so important.
Yeah.
that we need to be critical, and we need to lay this out, and people have to understand that they have been manipulated and lied to, and it's not by the people that are claiming that disclosure is here and that they have messages from the benevolent space brothers.
Right. Yeah. That's really interesting, isn't it? I mean, let's move on from that. Let's talk about other things, because there are more things that we can talk about. What are your guys' feelings on everything that's going on right now in regards to the government, the UAPTF, the report, or should I say the preliminary assessment that came out June 25th? Where do you see it at the moment, ufology and disclosure and things? And where do you see it going?
Erica.
Oh, I was not saying anything, and I'm like, nope, okay. You know what? I think that the one really great thing about the New York Times article in 2017 was that it started to create an awareness in the world, in the community, and I had a lot of different people that still come to me, and I saw this report, these two Navy pilots talking about what took place, and so people that never even thought about this are now saying, well, wait a minute, and that was a really great thing. And then, you have sort of the fallout from that, where we have promises that we will be getting specific materials and that the keys to the kingdom will be handed to us, and then it's dangling the carrot, and then whoop, we're going to pull it back again, and then oh no, over here, and then oh my lord, Jeremy Corbell is releasing the mothership tomorrow, and then oh, just kidding, whoops, and so I think that's been there's it's like we take 100 steps forward, and then the same group of people is taken 200 steps back. And you have to ask yourself, what is the motivation for that? Is there a political agenda? Is there, what sort of agenda do these people have? Are they, doing something with, Lou Elizondo? I mean, is this counterintelligence? What are the games being played? Because in my opinion, none of this seems above board.
Right.
And I will just also say my work with Skinwalker Ranch, which again has aged me beyond belief. And somebody needs to start a Botox fund. I keep telling Scott, I'm like, sweet baby Joe. I mean, this is too much for me, and counseling. I don't know, whatever. But that showed to me that you could have a story that was created by specific people that like to create stories about the narrative, and then underneath the scenes you've got the $22 million that is going towards the OSAP contract, which is Advanced Aerospace Weapons Testing. Has nothing to do with UFOs. It has to do with non-lethal weapons and all of these things, and so to me it's and then you've got people that are going out there making money on blogs and different things, writing articles saying that, oh no, they were just using that as a cover. And it's like, seriously, I mean, so it's really amazing, but like I said, what we're being presented with in that front is not what it appears to be. And I hope that, and it sounds like looking at the comments in your chat, that this is really awesome that you've got people that are willing to step back and look at a very questionable narrative.
No, yeah, that's true. Yeah. What about you, Scott? How do you think things are playing out at the moment since the kind of letdown of the 25th of June report? Where do you think we'll go from here?
Well, first I want to say I agree with Erica that after 2017, it kind of, a ton of people got involved that were never even interested in the subject, which is really cool. It's a whole new generation. A lot of veteran researchers, they're, kind of passing away, and they need a new generation. But they need a new generation that's critical thinking. They've got to look at evidence with a microscope. And the second thing is, I've never trusted a word that the government says, and we can leave this subject out completely and just look at the track record of our government. And they have lied to the people over and over again about so many things, and it's all documented. And so something this important, like they're going to open up a door and say, hey, guess what? We got all this stockpile of videos and pictures, and here, take a look at this. And that's not going to happen. I just don't think that's going to happen. Now, they've already talked about the photo that's rumored with the triangle coming up out of the ocean. That's been talked about, and it's, been circulating for a while now. Some people claim to have seen it. That's great. Let's see it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing where Lou was talking about the 23-minute video that he said he saw, and, it's crystal clear. You can see the details, let's see it.
Yeah.
Show it to us. I mean, I look at it this way. Down through the literature, you can find cases where people pulled out their 8mm cameras back in the 70s and filmed something, or they took clear shots of something, and they were confiscated. So if they were confiscated from a civilian, how is that classified? Because that person shot it.
Yeah.
So how can that be classified? So let's just leave all the other stuff out. How about all the stuff that they confiscated, give it back to the public, because it should be ours to look at.
Absolutely.
But I think there is a point, though. We could be. I mean, like, you've got people that are going out to the edge of Dugway or Area 51, and things. And I mean, that's a special lot of people, and so they're going out there and they are filming things that are classified projects, and that is a threat to our national security. And so, to me, to have I would hope that our government would do its due diligence and make sure that that information isn't available to the public, and I would understand that aspect of things. And I have to say, I wonder with some of the videos that are being released from Team Corbell, if there wasn't a little bit of that, maybe perhaps that is our technology or another adversary's technology, and so there's some sort of something going on there that isn't ET.
Yeah, and I would say, you know, and I'm not downing George Knapp or Jeremy Corbell. The enthusiasm is there
Yeah.
to you know, try to get at things and get it out there. But what's been released so far to the public with footage and images is super unimpressive, you know, and people are picking away at it, you know, trying to blow it up and, you know, try to examine it and you know, it's, you know, Vinny, as well as I do, that the government has the best visual imaging equipment in the world.
Yeah.
And so if there's stuff out there that's swarming these ships or buzzing our Air Force jets, you know that they have clear footage of whatever that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they have it and they know it. And so, you know, I'm on the fence with all that stuff that George and Jeremy released. It's, you know, I know they're trying and you know, but like I said, looking at hundreds of photos and hundreds of hours of footage over the years, it's just not impressive. It's not. And, you know, not to bring up Mick West's name or anything.
No, please do. I was actually going to go that way with the conversation. So please go for it.
He has some very valid points about that footage. And Mick's a smart guy. He's not stupid. He's a sharp guy. What I will disagree about something with him is that he's super biased. He won't entertain even the idea that there's something out there that we can't explain. He doesn't even want to deal with that at all. So it kind of reminds me of like a Phil Klass. You're familiar with him, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So everything was fake. There was nothing that can't be real. That can't be another life form. Nobody's coming here. You know, I disagree with that. And so, you know, I mean, it is what it is.
And so, and I just want to go say, you know, Scott, that we get in these conversations, and I respect you. You just are. I love working with you. You're so much. I love it. And for me, because I've had, you know, a lot of the Skinwalker stuff and seen that narrative. Well, there are a lot of problems with that one, and somebody clearly, George Knapp Cohn Kelleher, created a book where they took the mythology of the area. They took reports from Junior Hicks. They took all of this stuff and created a special place on the planet, unlike any others, where we've got all of these shape-shifting werewolves and bulletproof blah, 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 blah. Portals opening up and strange creatures getting out, all of this crap. And that is the kind of stuff that George Knapp has presented over his illustrious career, and yet we've never seen any tangible evidence. What we've had are people that are on Bigelow's payroll come forward and promote a story without any actual evidence. And to me, I say that I think George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, even though they have made a lot of money off of this, I definitely think I would like to see some tangible proof.
Yeah, no,
there's
I agree.
Me on my little soapbox, but
no, that's great. I love to hear all the opinions. And you mentioned Skinwalker, and yeah, I mean, I was always a bit skeptical about the 20 years work that Bigelow's teams did and stuff, but then I've been turned around a little bit by Brandon Fugel, and not just watching the TV show, The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, but just watching some of the interviews he's done and the beliefs he has, and you know, he's putting all of his own money into it. They're not, you know, hoaxing or faking anything. So what are your thoughts on that sort of aspect of it, or is it still just no?
No,
Erica, or Scott.
Erica,
sorry.
Erica has her own.
Definitely going to need to bathe in holy water after this. I think that there is, and I like Brandon. You know, I like Brandon a lot. In fact, I have a dinner this week with Brandon and a few other people. He's a very nice, gregarious, generous, successful businessman who is a pillar in the community in Utah, and is also on the governor's economic advisory board and the COVID advisory board, interestingly enough. And he has a lot of business dealings above and beyond his dealings in real estate.
Yeah.
And so I think that, it is an interesting idea that no money has been made from the ranch. And I want to take that at face value. There is a TV show being made. There is a lot of tourism now that is taking place that people are benefiting from in the area. There are a lot of things going on that there could be outside revenue streams.
Yeah.
Above and away from the ranch. And so I definitely think those are things to take into consideration. But I would love to sit down and see the scientific evidence that have created or that they've captured.
Yeah.
I know for me personally, I went over to Norway, to Hessdalen, and I had the pleasure of for 2 weeks working and watching Erling Strand and some of the best researchers from Germany, from France, from Italy come together, and they are coming up with groundbreaking equipment to actually study a place where they are experiencing very unusual things, and they have been for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
That type of thing for me is where it's at, and I want to just go on record saying, again, I've said this a million times, if you want to talk about the most funded and studied place on the planet, it isn't Skinwalker Ranch, it's over in Norway. And those are people who are doing things and are not caring about TV shows. These are people who are using science to push boundaries and to do what we all should be doing. And I think it is unfortunate at the end of the day we get so caught up with all this nonsense here in the United States. I mean, Bob Lazar and, yada, yada, bing, bang, and, all of this crap that we don't look where we should be looking. And we need to start.
I agree. That's why I've recently started a second channel where me and my Dutch friend Max Moskowitz, we cover European cases only. We interview witnesses and pilots and stuff. So, and that's just only a few episodes in, but I really felt that needed to be done because,
awesome.
like you say, we focus so much on the US and stuff like that, and I think the science part is needed, and I think we're going to start seeing it coming into play a bit more in this subject. Totally needed, in my opinion.
That's awesome.
So,
Vinnie,
go on, Scott.
What's that one called?
It's called Max and Vinnie's UAP Show. It's on YouTube. Yeah, we've done the first one we did was the 1979 Soesterberg case in Holland, which was a military base with 12 military witnesses of a huge black triangle. So we interviewed one of the guys that saw it, that was there, and the base, one of the base officers that didn't see it, but he was involved in sort of the aftermath of it. Absolutely incredible case.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a huge case, and that's the thing. These massive cases that are outside of the US just don't get heard about that often, and they really should be looked at. So.
Okay, well then just know that you're going to be coming on our show.
Oh, I'd love to. Please.
That'd be so cool. We would love
anytime.
that.
No, my pleasure. Anytime. Just say the word, I'll be there. So, I feel like I've kept you long enough, guys. I'm going to ask one last question to each of you, and it's just a light-hearted one. What is or are your favorite cases ever? Scott.
Ooh. It would be something like I really like the credibility behind the observer. So it would be something like the David Fravor case. They're trained, they're out there, they know what's up there.
Yeah.
Those cases are really valuable, especially with the witness testimony. And then from there, it's kind of a scaled down where you have maybe soldiers on the ground, police officers, and then, of course, at the bottom would be civilians because they mistake things and get things wrong. Not really a favorite case, but like I said, I think some of my favorite cases are the ones with military people involved that have come forward.
Yeah.
Some of them came forward years after they left the military. Like the case with at
Malmstrom Air Force Base, 67. Yeah, Robert Salas.
Yes, Robert Salas. And so that case is just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
I listen to him give his testimony at the citizens hearing, and that stuff is just fascinating. And I think those are much more valuable. And don't get me wrong, civilians, sometimes there's some cases out there that are really wild that have been seen by, your average Joe, maybe caught on film. But again, the quality of the testimony behind the military is really compelling to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, great answers. Erica.
I think for me, and it's again, I can't think of one. I mean, Phoenix Lights case is interesting. I'm not sure it is what everybody's saying it is on either side. But for me, I love reading and studying about anomalous light phenomena. And I look to, there's a book by Greg Long, Examining the Earth Light Theory, that is really interesting. And I love hearing about cases in the Yakima area and people that were stationed at fire lookout towers that were having experiences with objects that seemed to behave with an intelligence. And so cases like that are very fascinating for me. And also, you can go to, and just to say this, you can go to the projectheshtalon.org, and you can look at some of the cases because they're putting their data out in real time. And so you can go there and you can see the live cameras, 24-hour cameras. You can see the pictures of structured or structured craft that could allegedly be something, and you can also see the different research papers that have been written by, again, some of the brightest minds in the scientific community in Europe. And so those cases are just so cool.
That is extremely interesting. I want to go and look at that right away. If you could send me that, I'd love to see
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Vinnie, I just want to say one more thing.
Sure.
Circling back to the Travis Walton thing.
Please, yes.
So, it's kind of a challenge for anybody who's listening or who comes and watches this. Find me a case where someone's been abducted, taken away for a period of time. It doesn't have to be 5 days. It could be 1 day, where a search party is put out for someone. It's been documented by the police, maybe in newspapers, maybe by the news. And if you find that information, you know where to find me, and send it to me. That's my challenge.
Nice. I like that. Give the people something to do. I like it. Thank you so much.
Keep them busy.
That's what they need to.
Oh,
honestly.
Lord. I'm telling you. Yeah, that would be helpful.
They never know what else they might find when they're looking. But guys, listen, thank you so much. You're both welcome to come back on anytime you want. I think we could, I could, like I said, I could talk to you all day about these things. But for now, we'll leave it at that, guys. Thank you so much. If you want to hang around, we'll just have a small debrief after the show. That'd be great. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And please teach me how to cut off a show at the 1 hour mark.
I'm certainly far from a pro at that, but
you're pretty good.
Thank
you. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, listen, the pleasure is all mine. So guys, everyone that's been here in the chat as well, sorry I didn't really get to read it in that. I was just so involved in the awesome discussion. So thanks for everyone for watching. Everyone that will watch this after the fact, thank you so much for the continued support, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Vinnie.
Bye-bye.